market opportunity. And that's really, I think, where I really broke into eSports, right? And sort of moved away from being a fan and sort of playing League of Legends and going to a Worlds final at Staples to actually being a part of the scene. Because like, even though I made video games for so long, you know, in 2013, 14, 15, even up to like 17, 18, I felt like a non-endemic, right? I wasn't a pro player. I wasn't going to a LAN with my computer and my controller in my hand and my PC under my arm, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't organising like a 50-person tournament in a ballroom. And I wasn't a team owner. And so for those guys, I had like tremendous respect for and was very cognizant that I felt like a non-endemic, and I guess just made me work a lot harder. I think, you know, it is amazing. I think we always believed that there was that connection between traditional sports and esports. I think as each year goes on and we realise that all of us have grown up with gaming and we don't let go of it. Right? I'm a first-generation gamer. I've got 2 kids. I can now play the games with my kids. I still play. Right now, like every night, I'm playing Warzone, right, or Modern Warfare. Or I'm playing League. Right? Yeah. I play Clash Royale on my phone every day. And so I think it makes sense that all these apps. It's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And then obviously with this very unfortunate crisis, where we as a race of people are being dramatically, you know, we're being forced into change at an accelerated rate. And obviously, I believe everything happens for reasons, right? And the impact of this virus is completely rewriting the rules on how we learn, how we move around the world, how we engage with others, right, both remotely and in a community setting. The whole way I think sports are going to be played, the content of it captured, disseminated and shared, everything's been rewritten. And I think, you know, it is one of the bright spots that with gaming and the experience of gaming, we're used to being at home, right, or being alone in a location and going online and making friendships and relationships with strangers, right, and building camaraderie and building teamwork and sort of growing as a group of strangers. And I think all of that is actually super beneficial. And then we do know that, you know, starting with Fortnite, right, where all the traditional athletes are like late for training or they've hurt their wrist or they're doing because they've been playing Fortnite so much, or they're doing the dance, right? Yeah. Where you know, where all of a sudden, you know, there is a great awareness that traditional sports athletes like video games too and play video games. Who would have thought that it would be like iRacing and NASCAR that would do more for the cross-pollination of sports and esports amongst both fan bases so immediately, right? But it's almost like the bellwether of what's going on, right?
It was almost like a second look. You know, it's to the point now where, like, you know, it's like I don't even know if you're familiar, but I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's maybe like 80 minutes away from New Orleans, right? And I've been a real pusher for esports, and not only esports but gaming in my own community. And the whole sim racing and iRacing thing since COVID, it's been crazy how many calls I've been getting. It's almost like, you know, a second or third look at what we've been a part of for years. You know, it's amazing to me the impact it had since everybody's almost at home. But go ahead. I had to say that statement.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, right? And I think, you know, because of the disruption that we're going through, because we are all at home and because we are all online, this, for traditional sports teams, right, and the brands that sponsor and advertise around their games and their league content, right, and their pro players, the entire infrastructure just got nuked. Just got blown up. There's no league, there's no games. And video games is So our argument at Engine Shop is like video games is the dominant culture. It is the new culture. And it's being proven right now because we can all still connect with each other through the playing of video games. And it is something now the traditional athletes and sports clubs can do with their audience so they can keep that connection going. It's a way in which the traditional athletes can leverage their fandom, right, to do something for good.
Right.
And again, it's also helping keep all of us sane. And I think when you look at NASCAR and iRacing, I think, the whole eSports betting and the sports book wagering is also a component there, right? And because of it's such a realistic simulator that I think it's quite an easy jump for fans of the real world racing sport who are missing watching, right, the driving on the weekends. It's not so much of a leap for them visually to then look at like iRacing NASCAR and then knowing like how challenging that simulator is, right, where the skill gap is really big. There's sort of the appreciation for the skills and, it's sort of minimizing as much as possible the disruption to their regular viewing of real racing. Right.
And I feel like this is coming from somebody that had similar interests as you, and I know you're a little older than me, but we're in that same age group. I would consider as far as culture. For me, it's like watching hip hop happen all over again, like the dynamic that hip hop had and crossing the color barriers and the culture barriers. I feel like we're at that point again with gaming and esports with the power of the internet.
I mean, that's huge. Totally. And to your point about breaking down barriers, it's huge. It's huge. It's like it's huge. There's whole ways of communication. Right? When I play League, right, there are kids in Brazil, there are kids in Latin America, there are Europeans, right, or the same Counter-Strike, right? And the video game has a set of acronyms and sayings that I can use that doesn't matter what language, it doesn't matter what home country you're in, you know what I mean. And I'm able to communicate with you. I think, look, we still have stereotypes to deal with, right? We still have barriers to break down, right? And that we still have challenges, right? But I think video games are the great equalizer, and they are fantastic at breaking down barriers in terms of when we think about geographically, racially, sexually, right?
So I have to ask you this: when you were working on Andreas and you realized. Did you realize that you were working on something groundbreaking as far as, not only for as visual, because I grew up being a visual artist and graphic designer, so when y'all dropped that, for me, I was like, oh, this is it. And then the storyline piece, on top of it being open world, did you realize you were making like a game changer and like making history as far as like what would other companies try to do when you did it? Or was it, we're just going to put our best foot forward and release this great project that we think we have?
A bit of both. I think we were obsessed with putting our best foot forward and being better publisher than anyone else, making better games, right? There was tremendous respect for those that were the best at making video games at the time, and we wanted to be able to hold our heads up high amongst them. Sam Hauser always had a very, very distinct vision and was definitely on a mission to create the ultimate form of entertainment. I think we knew that every one of us that worked on Grand Theft Auto loved it and really believed in it. And when it was top down, like Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, not everyone appreciated what it was about. And we were very much fighting a lot of sort of criticism and doubt. Right, and that made us very determined, super determined. And when we were with the PlayStation 2, and those sort of vector units, we were able to get it into 3D. And that's when we knew that then it would really be, everyone would understand like the true experience, the real experiences that could come out of a open world, right? And the kind of emergent gameplay that could come out of it. At the same time, we worked 7 days a week, right? And we worked very hard. Like literally the day that 3 came out, it was like, right, we got a plan for Vice City, and we had to make Vice City in a year. And get Max Payne out.
And Max Payne was a staple too.
Yeah. Well, that bullet time and the snow and the black leather jacket and the moodiness of it, like the whole noir, it was all, it was a trip to work on.
Right.
And then we had 2 years for San Andreas, and then at which point we're suddenly in a culture war of, we're becoming the poster child of, video game violence, right? Or that whole conversation.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely at the forefront of the whole debate, where basically, it was a good thing, because parents around the world really woke up to the fact that their kids were playing video games. They needed to pay attention. There was age ratings. And for us, there was a very, very clear-cut fight around the fact that we were positioning and adamant that video games were no longer just for children, and they were for grown-ups. We were making games for grown-ups, right? For us.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Jamie, I'm sorry, because I think we all came out. I was in high school, so I remember I have an older brother that's 7 years older than me. I think he went and got the game for me, and my mom didn't know at the time. Right. But it was classic. It was classic stuff for me, man. Like, I got you go. Yeah, I mean, my upbringing. I grew up in the ghettos of Louisiana, and I had crack dealers and drug dealers and prostitutes and everything outside my door. So for me, it wasn't any different than what I was seeing every day. So I was able to relate to it, man. I mean, it was a game for me, and maybe some of those culture things. If I wasn't raised right, I didn't have a stern mom and dad, I had a chance to be a drug dealer. But I mean, even in the game, I'm like, hey, I could do this without any circumstances and really enjoy myself and get a full experience. So I get the point of me being a parent now, I'm real cautious of what games my daughters play. But at the same time, it was a real staple and fundamental time for gaming for me. But my other question was, the whole Def Jam scenario. I heard you said that you were cool with Kevin Lyles. Like, how is that like bringing in like hip hop into gaming? I wanted to ask that question because I'm a hip hop head myself, and Def Jam was like the label at the time to be involved with.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I think we'd heard the stories from back in the day, right, when Def Jam blew up, when Russell Simmons, went out to Japan and stood up to Sony, and like the early days of like Public Enemy, and here's a group of very, very, very successful, music executives, and who are, hip hop, right? They are rap, and I just a fan of the music. Despite, the fact that I hadn't made a music karaoke game before didn't stop me, right? It was very easy for me to be passionate about the music. I mean, seeing me rap is, dude, I'm not a rapper. I'm not a singer. I had to rap Kanye West's song to Kanye.
Really?
And he was cool, and a lot of the rappers, right? And dude, I'm like, and as Kevin Lyles, he put it really well. He's like, you get hip hop, but you'll never be hip hop. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
You can't act, but you'll never be that. And
you're a fan, yeah, but you're not part of the culture per se.